Move on now and talk about this case, which is quite extraordinary. A man wrongly jailed for rape may have to pay prison accommodation and food costs. Yes, an innocent man who spent 17 years in prison for a rape he did not commit may have his prison accommodation and food costs deducted from any compensation he wins for his ordeal. This is Andrew Malkinson. He's living on benefits, and he is absolutely enraged by the idea that essentially what would happen is he'd have to pay money for the torture he endured for almost 2 decades. He was 57, or he is 57. He was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 7 years after being found guilty of an attack on a woman in Salford in Greater Manchester in 2003. Now, he maintained his innocence throughout of all of this and was finally declared a free man after his conviction was overturned by appeal court judges on Wednesday. And this seems absolutely extraordinary to me. Joining me now is Mark McDonald, criminal barrister. Good morning.
Good morning.
What do you make of this case? This poor man was incarcerated, he protested his innocence, and now finally he is free, and it looks like he may well have to pay prison accommodation and food costs just to add insult to injury.
Well, you've got to understand, this has been going on now for over 25 years. This is nothing new. You know, every year people are being released from prison who are innocent. I would say over the hundreds have been released in recent years who should never have been convicted in the first place. They apply for compensation, some of them 17 years, some of them even more. They apply for compensation for the years of their life that have been destroyed. Most of them don't get compensation because the actual rules are, and it's important to know, that you've got to prove that it was a miscarriage of justice. So even though your conviction's been overturned, the burden is on you to prove that you were in fact innocent. Right. And that's a really high burden. So you may, they may have realised that you had an unfair trial, or the police didn't disclose the material that they should have done, or the judge cocked it up during the trial and failed to direct the jury on the law properly. And your conviction was crossed because it wasn't a fair trial, but you still don't get compensation because if you haven't proven that you were in fact innocent, which is a really high burden, you don't get anything. So there are massive problems with our system right now. There are many people inside prison who are innocent that can't even get out. I represented a man called Michael Stone, you might remember him.
I do.
Now I've been his barrister for 20 years. The CCRC, who are not fit for purpose, have refused to send it to the Court of Appeal, even though I've got a confession from another person who said that he committed the offence. He actually did the murders. They refused to send it. So we have a structural problem. So yes, the story right now is this man who was wrongly convicted, who is plainly innocent, who will receive compensation, but it'd be significantly reduced for these hotel costs of being in a prison and board, which is unbelievable. But that's been going on, as I say. That rule changed in 2007.
That's right, because it was confirmed by the House of Lords in 2007, when that, of course, was the UK's highest court at that period in time. This cannot be right. So basically, there was a miscarriage of justice. He goes to prison, his life's destroyed, and then he has to pay all the fees for being hotelled at His Majesty's pleasure. That seems absolutely terrible. Not only that, they've destroyed his life. He can't work. He's on benefits, and so this is just a terrible state of affairs.
But this is the tip of the iceberg that's going on in our system. I mean, you know, as much as it's right that we look at this, and I noticed that Priti Patel in the Telegraph recently has said, these rules need to be reviewed. Bob Neal, Conservative MP, Chairman of the Justice Committee, has said the same. Dominic Grieve, previous Attorney General Secretary, has said the same in recent weeks. However, they've been in power for the last 13 years and not done anything. Labour was in power when this rule changed and didn't do anything. In fact, it's gone the other way. And here's the difficulty. And this is why this is all happening. There are people being released almost on a monthly basis that was innocent, that the government have to pay compensation for. So the more that they can reduce it, the more that the financial costs are not impacted upon the government. I mean, and that's it. And if you imagine applying this to say, you know, they took off the wrong leg in an operating theatre, but you're not going to get compensation for it, or you will get compensation, but we're going to take off this or this because, you've got a discount on slippers now. You know, whatever it may be, then you know, boom. That would impact on the amount of money that the government is not spending anymore on compensation, and that's all part of the bigger plan.
I mean, I just actually can't believe my eyes reading this. And the fact is, as you rightly said, of course, Bob Neal, the Justice Committee chairman, said that they really need to review the rules. But as you said, the Conservative Party's done absolutely nothing about it. Labour's done nothing about it. And in the middle of this are caught innocent people, literally innocent people, paying for the mistakes of the judiciary.
Yes. Yeah, well, not just the judiciary, the police, the Crown Prosecution.
Indeed, CPS, the police,
the whole range of bodies that have got together to put an innocent man in prison.
I mean, sorry, I was just going to jump in, and the Ministry of Justice has issued a statement. It says they're not planning to change the rules. It said deductions from compensation were sometimes made where there have been substantial savings made on living costs while a person was in custody. What? Of course, saving costs?
You know, they don't do it now, but when this man would have been put in prison, they were slopping out. And you know what I mean by slopping out?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the conditions that people were living in for many years. I mean, I think it's changed during the last 10 years. Now you have a toilet in the room that you sleep in. You know, you have food. You're generally in your cell for 23 out of 24 hours a day. You know, you may be living in that cell with another individual who's in there with you, who's using the same toilet as you are. Imagine those conditions.
No, I can't.
Right?
I can't.
You know,
Mark, thank you so much for explaining that as well. That's Mark McDonald, criminal barrister. God, I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary. We're going to deduct costs because you basically had a lovely time.
So I first became aware of this and couldn't believe it was true when I read up about the Gildando alleged killer, Barry George, who was a local loner, who was sub-educational in terms of, you know, his cognitive function, who was actually just framed by the police. They decided it was him. They ignored all evidence that showed them that it wasn't him. He went to prison for 7 years, and when he came out from his compensation, had to pay board and lodging. And I couldn't believe it then, David. I actually, still as we say it, I can't believe this is actually true.
No. Extraordinary, isn't it? Well, I hope we do change the law, and someone needs to get hold of that and actually do something about it.